Welcome back to Soccer Unscripted, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of soccer from every angle. Whether you're a seasoned fan or just starting to explore the sport, this is your go-to space for all things soccer. I'm your host, Daisy Vigueras, and as a soccer enthusiast, I'm here to explore the moments, debates, and conversations that make this sport so captivating. Today, we're diving into the world of personal training and the impact it has on player development. Our guest is someone who knows this space inside and out, Sean Cameron. He's a personal trainer, former pro, and a national champion at the elite academy level. With years of experience, both playing and coaching, Sean has developed a unique approach to training that blends elite-level performance with personalized coaching. We'll be talking about what it takes to build a strong fitness foundation, how personal trainers can complement team training, and whether private coaching is really necessary for young athletes. Plus, we'll get into injury prevention, motivation strategies, and debunking common fitness myths. Sean, welcome to Soccer Unscripted. Let's start with this. Are there any coaching philosophies you grew up with that you now incorporate into your own training approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had the experience working with some really high-level coaches, a little old school, right? Times have changed. One of the things I actually hold till this day is I'm huge on mindset. I'm huge on just preparation, right? And I had this one English coach, and I was on the state team, and one of our things that we had to do was clean our boots, right? And it's like the smallest detail, but it was, when you are taking care of your things and you're focused, you have a routine, it helps you get into the zone. It just allows you to kind of tap into a higher level of performance within yourself. Most kids really, they just wake up, they don't necessarily know how to get into rhythm and routine. And I feel like that was one of the key things that I took for the last 25 years, right? Of just playing and playing at a high level, just setting myself to succeed, setting the right tone and environment around me on game day. I try to share that with all my kids, whether it's my teams that I coach or private clients, helping them kind of tap into a more heightened awareness through something so simple as cleaning your boots.
That is such a unique experience, and so I'd like to ask how you assess a client's starting fitness level and create a personalized plan.
I think that is a great question, right? Well, one of the things, as you work with private clients and you work with an individual, you have to really discover their habits, their schedule, right? So normally what I like to do is I gather information a little bit about them before we even train, right? So this way I can kind of compile what their day-to-days look like, how they carry themselves, and then based off of their information, I'll tailor a schedule for them, right? We incorporate simple things like sleep, right? How you eat, hydration, the amount of activity throughout the week, and then the focuses that you should have in your week, so it's a balanced training week. So we sit down together with the client, and we just kind of tap into them, understand who they are as a human, and then we set the environment, the standards around their goals and where they're kind of coming from.
How would you say you approach injury prevention and recovery in your training programs?
Yeah, so one of the things that I like to really focus on when it comes to preventing, I'm really big into yoga. So one of the things that I incorporate into my training program is a lot of alternative methods, right? We use a lot of natural resources like yoga, meditation. These things help kind of center the mind, the body. Yoga is great for stretching the body and the muscles, but also strengthening, toning, creating resilience through holding positions, right? And through that, you're able to not only make the body more flexible, but also make it more dynamic and strong in joints, right? Like knees, hamstrings, your hips, your lower back. These are core areas of the body that we really utilize, and we don't recognize that we use them so much. A lot of injuries come from either misalignment, right? Maybe they're tight, maybe they overcompensated and they're not taking care of themselves, and then it leads to something further down the line. So what we like to do is we like to help, again, create the environment of how they should behave before training, after training. We normally, with all of my clients, we have a program that they follow, that they can go step by step all the way through, and just make it a repetitive process. So this way, they're helping themselves prepare for their training environment or their game environment. They're getting into the right mindset. They are stretched and loose. And then the same thing on the back end, right? After a training session, getting a cool down, again, taking care of the body. These things play a big role in how you can consistently play over time. And so neglecting the body through just lack of awareness, not enough sleep, hydration, stretching, these things end up taking a toll. They just compound. So the main goal, I guess, with my clients and injury prevention is really just around creating a natural, healthy lifestyle on and off the field.
And with that lifestyle, what role would you say nutrition plays in your program?
Yeah. So I've been plant-based for about 10 years now. There's a lot of research and science behind being plant-based, how to utilize whole foods as a source of nutrition to give and provide peak performance. Today, we have a society where, we have a lot of fast food, we have a lot of unhealthy options. You even see it in the soccer world where we go to tournaments and, in between games, kids are eating candy and hot dogs and hamburgers and soda, all these kinds of things that when you ingest them, they don't really fuel the body. And then you're asking the kids to go ahead and play at a peak performance multiple times in a day with the lack of rest and proper hydration. So with all of my clients, we try to incorporate enough information so that they can have an ability to understand what's the right fit when I'm having breakfast, lunch, dinner, what's a good snack for myself, how do I hydrate, what's a great way to hydrate. One of the things that I'm huge into is high quality water. So water is not the same quality across, right? Most waters, they sit in plastic bottles, they sit over time. A lot of that stuff leaches in, and so the water that we actually drink out of a plastic bottle doesn't actually hydrate the body, right? So one of the things that I like to do is we create different menus for our clients. So this way they can have like a game day meal. So post recovery, as well as preparation. So let's just say they have a game in the afternoon. There will be several options for them to choose from for their breakfast. Plenty of them will be normal things that you would see, but then there would be a lot of fresh items, right? So one of the things that's really important is not fueling the body with the wrong things, like not really drinking. We don't want to drink milk right before we play a game, right? So like a lot of the kids, they would want to have cereal with milk and then go play maybe an hour afterwards. But if you think about it, right, your body temperature, and then you put milk inside and you start shaking it up, running around, it just kind of causes for discomfort. And also it's not really giving the body the energy it needs, right? So a lot of our clients, they come to us, they've seen tremendous improvements in their performance just by fueling their body with proper water, eating the right kinds of foods at the right times, and they feel lighter. I think that's the other thing too. I guess going back to injury prevention and through nutrition is that there's a lot of inflammation in the body, and that's when the body kind of breaks down, right? And a lot of things that create inflammation are like these candies and all these processed foods, right? Like, because the body doesn't necessarily know what to do with it. right? So it just creates swelling inside. And so when you have, let's just say you play a game and you play on turf, and we all know sometimes playing on turf, you can feel the aches afterwards, right? It's a little hard surface. Recovering from that with a body full of inflammation, it takes a lot longer. And so this is something that people don't really think about. And so nutrition plays a key role in simply just knowing and having an awareness of what to put inside the body.
That's some great insight. And just to throw a fun question out there, I know you mentioned good quality drinking water. What would you say is your favorite maybe brand of water that you recommend?
Yeah. Well, let's see. What do I drink? I drink Evian spring water, Arrowhead. I think that's a really good one if you can get it in glass. Glass over plastic all day. One of, I guess, the cool little things that I tell my kids, a natural Gatorade would be coconut water with key lime and a little pinch of sea salt, right? And so you charge the water, you have natural electrolytes, and then you also have the lime juice for alkalinity, and it's actually really good. It tastes like a lemonade.
Well, there you go, homemade Gatorade. And with all these different things like nutrition and recovery, how do you keep your clients motivated and accountable?
Yeah, absolutely. So when clients work with me, one of the things that we do is we spend time watching game film, right? So I think one of the biggest things with player development is being able to see yourself, right? Sometimes you don't recall situations the same way when you're going through a POV. And there's no real hiding behind the camera, right? And so seeing yourself execute or not execute in those moments, or moments where you don't really show up, especially when we spend time together as a client working on smaller details, and then there's not necessarily that application, we go straight to the film and you can't really hide, right? And so putting them in moments where, hey, this is what we're looking to do, this is what we're talking about, right? How could you bring more application? What kind of standards do you need to set for yourself so that way the consistency in your performances are always there? One of the, I guess, the things to motivate players, I think it's tricky. I think you have to, players at high levels have to find self-motivation. Sometimes it's kind of hard to, I guess, motivate yourself. But one of the unique things that I try to incorporate into my clients' experience is visualization. I like to tell my clients to get into a space where they can see the game before the game's played, right? Like put yourself into certain situations that you would experience in a game and visualize yourself succeeding, POV, whilst you're dreaming, right? And so, your dream would have to be as vivid as being able to smell the grass, right? Hearing the birds chirp, hearing yourself breathe heavy while you're, sprinting or running, right? Getting a real sense of reality. What this does is it creates more of a mind-body connection, where the body recognizes the situation quicker, which will allow you to respond quicker, play through more subconscious behavior. And the end result is a heightened confidence in yourself because you're able to play quicker, you're able to recognize these moments a little faster, and it produces a different result.
That's great. And with training club players, how do you ensure that your training approach aligns with the team's and the coach's overall vision and goals?
Yeah, I think a lot of my conversations not necessarily surrounds fully around the coach. I think in the club space, we're not privy to great coaches. I don't think that every single club player has access to a high quality coach where the coach knows exactly how to develop the player and knows exactly what the player needs. I think a lot of what the role of a private trainer is really diving deep into the kid, right? Understanding what are their goals, where are they currently, where do they want to be, and then creating an environment for them to reach that standard. So it's really just based on the player, how the player feels. And then again, it's really about breaking down the player technically to help them find more of themselves. That will then derive into a better result, which a coach would appreciate more. I think that's really the end goal, is what does the client want? What does the kid want to do, rather than the coach themselves?
Yeah, and I know you mentioned breaking down like the players, probably maybe what they're good at, what they need work on. So what would you say is your coaching style and how you adapt to players with different personalities or different playing styles?
That's a really good question. Not every kid is the same. Some kids respond to different stimulus. Some kids need energy, right? A lot of kids need energy. I think that's, if you're a coach, getting a team to play a certain way, and you want them to be energetic, to play with a certain style and profile, the coach has to express that kind of mannerism. But then there are kids that maybe don't necessarily, they want to receive information, but their initial approach to receiving the information is a little reserved. And so sometimes those kids, you need to just pull them aside and put your arm around them a bit. Just let them know, hey, if you do something like this, you can get a result like this, right? And I think, that's part of reading the player, reading your audience, reading your team, because as a coach, you can't really just coach them one way, because then you'll get a certain result. If you really want to maximize the development, if you want to maximize the result, it has to be more of a custom tailored approach. So I like to really set a tone with the group, but then, as I see each player in that training moment or in a game, I'll pull them aside and just talk to them and try to support them where I can.
And when you're working with a player, how would you say you track progress, and what benchmarks would you set for your clients?
Yeah, tracking progress. So we'll set our goals. My clients, we have a program where they can follow and track all their data. We set all of our initial goals as well in the same program. I think every opportunity that we get to see each other together, we talk about kind of where we are en route to our goal. We keep it there as a linchpin, but it's not always trying to get somewhere. Sometimes the kids are always focused on trying to be a certain player and get somewhere. They don't realize how much development and progress they've made presently. So we like to set goals. We like to have the data to be able to track it. I think it's important for them to be able to reflect on, but then also being present in mind and realizing where I am each day, where I've kind of come from, and then obviously knowing the ultimate goal and how much we have to work towards that if we have to continue to apply more energy towards that goal. But it's a unique approach, because sometimes you don't want the kid to always feel like they're having to improve, because then they don't necessarily have confidence in their current moment. And I think confidence is the biggest difference between any player. It could be a pro or a club player. You look at many pros, even across sports, right? Confidence is everything. Sometimes you have the player that just blows up. He gets a big contract and he's on, cloud nine, right? And then the pressure, maybe an injury, maybe, loss of momentum. And then he's not feeling the same as himself, lack of confidence. And then it's a completely different result, right? And so just really understanding that the journey is, it is a long race, right? And to be mindful of where you want to be, but enjoy where you currently are. Enjoy trying to work really hard. Look back and see how far you've already come, and that will kind of give you the confidence to go ahead and attack your goals later on.
Yeah, I totally agree. Definitely having that confidence and knowing where you are now and where you want to be. And in the personal fitness world, there's a lot of myths, a lot of common myths. So what's one common fitness myth you often have to debunk, and how do you educate clients about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think a quick myth is, those kids that they want to get bigger, stronger, faster, right? They're in this age where maybe a teenage years, there's fitness gyms everywhere, right? One of the, I think, myths is going to a gym and using machines where if you're playing soccer, going and bench pressing, 250 pounds, not necessarily going to translate in a heightened performance, right? So a lot of what I try to share with kids that I work with that want to improve in their fitness, their overall strength, their speed, their agility, is really creating exercises and drills that mimic the game, right? Because then when you're playing in the games, it's faster. You recognize the situations, the motor functions are the same. So this way you get a different result. A lot of sports, when I was in college, we did a lot of deadlifts, cleans, bench press, a lot of things that don't necessarily set a mark in sports fitness rather than just fitness itself, because it's a lot of static movement. And so you're kind of training in a static way that isn't really the environment of the game. So one of the things that I try to share with my clients is incorporating more calisthenics, more HIIT workout, more HIIT movements, weighted movements, explosive calisthenics. These types of movements mimic the game. Applying weighted resistance through ankle weights or weight vests, those are great ways to bring strength training into a soccer training environment, really, while building speed and strength and functionality, but doing it in a way that is in alignment with what you're trying to achieve. Now, if you're trying to achieve a great physique and body and you want to build mass and bulk, then going to a gym and doing static movements and using weighted machines could be the way to go. But for an athlete that, like a soccer player profile, the body is very lean and slender. You need to be very agile. You need to be explosive. You need to be quick. You need to have endurance. So you can't carry a lot of body weight, but you have to be physically strong. So doing simple things like burpees, right? So, and you can do burpees in a 15, 20, 10-minute HIIT workout, right? And then, I always tell my clients after your workout, go and touch the ball. Go find a wall, get 500 touches. Go juggle. Go get 2,000, 3,000 touches. Once you've broke the fatigue mark, so now you're really having to concentrate and really think about it. So now you're getting a full workout. You're working fitness, you're working strength, you're working explosiveness, agility, but then you're also working on concentration and technique and control. And these are the things that will carry over at the professional level.
What are some things that you would recommend to young athletes who maybe don't have the means to afford a personal trainer?
I think right now, 2025, we live in an age of technology. When I was around, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Google. We had dial-up. I remember my first computer. Back in the day, we didn't really have lots of resources to utilize to build out training, right? I think now there's so much content where it's readily available. I think it's really just the intention and an awareness of what it is you want to accomplish when you're training on your own, but the information is out there. One of the first things I tell all kids, clients I coach, is YouTube, Google. There's search engines. You can simply search 30-minute ball mastery, right? You can find a video that's 30 minutes long that's filled with ball mastery skills that can improve your touch, your control. You don't really need equipment to effectively train. If we look at the sport, it's a global sport. There's kids all over the world that don't necessarily have the infrastructure around them. Some of the best players that have ever played the game come from these environments. They don't necessarily have the money to get a private trainer, let alone find a club. A lot of it is really just being passionate and consistent, and the self-motivation that we were talking about earlier, right? Being able to be motivated enough to find a way to get touches on the ball, to improve yourself as a player. You don't need a personal trainer necessarily to get where you want to be, but it's nice to have one for sure.
And I mean, that kind of answers my next question, which was, do you think kids need private trainers? Would you like to go a little more in depth on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that private trainers are needed because currently the way that the landscape is, kids in the club environment don't necessarily get enough touches on the ball. A lot of the training sessions are built around team concepts and team play rather than individual play. And I think that's where private trainers really come into play, is detail, technique, technical drills, awareness training. These are the types of areas and elements of the game that a private trainer can help you with, that not necessarily you training on your own can access, right? You can, and again, YouTube and Google, you can find, drills and exercises that you can set up, maybe awareness training or something like that. But to have somebody there to help break down the detail in the moment, right? A lot of kids, when they train themselves, they're not watching themselves. So to have somebody that's actually watching you apply and execute certain moments, not necessarily knowing how to do it, the cadence, the energy, the awareness, the timing of things, like those smaller, finer details, I think that's where the private coach is really key to the overall development. And if you really look at like pros, their off season, they all have private trainers. They're working, their agencies, their teams that are around the professional athletes, they have private trainers that come and help them. They have 2, 3, 4 trainers on a whole field with multiple goals, and they're working through their paces, they're working situationally, they're working technically, just refining the skills of a pro. And I think that's really needed in a game where really 2% make. So the playing population is really, minority if you're trying to get to a professional level. So you kind of need that assistance in a way to kind of get where you're going.
Honestly, just in the personal trainer world, you've given us some insight, given us an inside look, and it's been such a joy having you here on Soccer Unscripted.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you for joining me here today, Sean.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Thanks for kicking it with me here at Soccer Unscripted. I'm your host, Daisy Vigueras, and this is The End of the Game.